Hey guys, and welcome to the guide. In this episode, we're talking about how not to suck at War Thunder. At least the flying part of War Thunder. I'm not very interested in the tank part, so whatever. So, if you're like me, and you're a bit of a flight sim junkie, you'll probably have realized that, there's no, the flight sims have dried up lately. There's nothing. I mean, we're waiting on Ace Combat, and to be quite honest with you, Sony, I don't care about VR. I don't care about virtual reality. I know that's what's taking so long with Ace Combat, is you're trying to integrate your stupid virtual reality into it. And I don't care. I just want the game. I will play it perfectly happy on my TV screen. I'm not dropping $300, $400 for the stupid virtual reality goggles and then another $500 for the stupid system. So just give me the damn game, alright? Alright, sorry. I had to do that rant. Anyways, if you're a flight sim junkie like me, you've pretty much realized that the only good flight sim out there at this point in time is War Thunder. They've all dried up. They've all, disappeared. I don't know what happened to the flight sim in recent times, but there's, no good flight sims left in the world, except for War Thunder, especially if you're like me and you're playing on the PS4. This is all we got. This is it. It's just War Thunder, and that's all we got. So, it's a good flight sim, it really is. My only gripe is it's free to play, so it has all the trappings of being free to play. So, with that rant out of the way, let's get into it. How not to suck at War Thunder. Alright, so the first thing you should know is there's 3 modes in War Thunder that you can play. There's arcade mode, which has the loosest physics and is the easiest for new players to learn. And that's probably why you're watching this video, so just stick with arcade mode at the beginning. There's realistic mode, which is the flying's realistic and all that jazz, and then there's simulator mode, where they mix and match the actual tank players with the airplane players, which is awesome, but it's insanely hard to do. So just steer clear of that mode altogether, just stick with the arcade mode. The second thing you should worry about is which country you're going to fly. Are you going to fly US planes? Are you going to fly German planes? Are you going to fly British planes? Are you going to fly Russian planes? Are you going to fly Japanese planes? So that's very important because the countries are different. They really are. Some countries have better fighters. Some countries have better bombers. Some countries have better attacking planes, ground attack planes. So it's pretty important to pick the country that you're going to stick with at the beginning. I mean, you can flip-flop once you figure out what you're doing. You can flip-flop back and forth from one country to another, but at least initially pick a country and stick with it. So, with that being said, the differences between the countries are... First off, we have America. Yay, America. You really can't go wrong with the US. They have good fighters, they have good ground attackers, they have good bombers. It's a really versatile country. You can't go wrong with the US as a beginner. And as an added bonus, if you're a shitty shot like I am, because America mounts their machine guns in the wings, they spread more, so you have a better chance of hitting something. You gotta hit it more because they're only 50 cals, but you have a better chance of hitting something. Then there's the Germans. The German fighters are awesome. They always demand respect wherever they go. The only downside to the German fighters is all the guns are mounted straight in the nose, so you have to be a really good shot to hit what you're aiming at with German fighters. They have pretty good ground attack with the Stuka, and they have pretty good early on bombers, so they're pretty versatile too. You just have to be a really good shot with their fighters, which is the downside. But they have a nose-mounted cannon, so whatever you shoot, you hit and it explodes. Then there's the Russians. The Russians have awesome bombers and ground attack airplanes, especially with the Il-2. This thing is amazing at ground attack. They have good fighters, but their fighters suffer from the same problem as the German fighters do, where all their guns are mounted straight in the nose. So you have to be a really good shot to hit what you're aiming at with the Russian fighters. But they also have cannons in the nose, their fighters, just like the Germans. So when you hit something, it explodes pretty fast and pretty easily. So Russians are also good. Then there's Great Britain. Their fighters are pretty good. Their early on ground attack sucks horribly until you get to the Mosquito. And their bombers are okay until you get to the Lancaster. So if you're just going to be a fighter pilot, Great Britain's pretty good, but all their early on planes, the Hurricane and the Spitfire, all come with 30 caliber machine guns. So you got to put a lot of bullets into the other guy before they come down. So their fighters are pretty weak. So I wouldn't really recommend them. The Japanese, I'll be honest, the Japanese is like playing this game in hard mode. Later on, the Japanese planes get really good, but like early in the game, it's like playing the game in hard mode. Their bombers explode into flames almost immediately when they get shot at. Their ground attacks are pretty much non-existent, and their fighters aren't that good. I'm sorry to say it, but they're really not that good. Like the Zero, it comes with 120 rounds of 20mm cannon and a 230 caliber machine gun. So it's hard to hit crap with the Zero. If you have to be a really good shot with the Zero to make it effective. It's a good maneuvering plane, but it's really hard to shoot. So the Japanese is like playing this game in hard mode. So I would just avoid the Japanese altogether. And then there's the Italians, which I forgot about with this, but they have good fighters and decent bombers, and that's about it. So I would steer clear of the Italians as a beginner. So as a beginner, I would go with the Americans, the Germans, or the Russians. Once you got your starter country figured out, once you figured out which country you want to play as, at least initially, and it's time to fly, what I would honestly recommend doing is stick with the bombers initially. If you're new to flight sims, if you're not sure what you're doing, stick with bombers, because with bombers, the only thing you have to worry about is flying the airplane. You don't have to worry about shooting anything. You have to worry about dropping the bombs, but you just cycle through the camera angles to find the bomb scope. On the PS4, it's triangle. I don't know what it is on the computer. You gotta check that hotkey. But, like, pretty much with bombers, all you gotta worry about is just flying the plane. Why? Because the turrets will automatically engage any enemy aircraft that gets too close to you. So your only job with a bomber is to fly a plane and then drop the bombs on the enemy base, which is this big fat target that's hard to miss. So you can get good points doing that. And with a bomber, you start up at a high altitude that kind of makes it hard for enemy fighters to get up to you, because they start off below you. So they have to climb to reach you, and it's kind of a pain in the ass for them. So they usually try to avoid it if they can. But if you go down to their altitude, then they'll fucking jump on you like a hive of bees. So stay up high and just avoid dogfights altogether as best you can, at least initially. Just try to avoid enemy aircraft altogether initially. I know it sounds boring, but that's the best way to learn. And then, once you get good at flying bombers and you're comfortable with that, then move to the ground attack planes. The planes specifically designed to go after enemy tanks, the pillboxes, the AA. Move to those planes, and you can still get a pretty good amount of points just blowing up the enemy ground targets. Still, if you can, try to avoid, dogfights, but it's gonna happen. Especially once you move to the ground attackers, it's gonna happen. They're gonna, once they see you blowing stuff up on the ground, they're gonna come after you. So it's gonna happen, but you can still get points while not actually dogfighting. And then once you're comfortable in the ground attack aircraft, then start actively dogfighting and engaging, enemy aircraft. But I would first recommend starting off flying the bombers, then the ground attackers, and then move to the fighters. I know that sounds anticlimactic, but that's the best tip I can come up with, is avoid dogfights initially. Don't try to get into dogfights. Try to fly the bombers, try to just learn how to fly the airplanes, get comfortable in flying the airplanes, and then worry about the dogfights and getting those mass kills. And my last tip is don't get frustrated, because especially if you're playing on a PS4, You have to understand that there's PC players that have went out and they probably have a $200 joystick that they use and they fly with, and those are those dudes that are getting insane like kill streaks. You know, those dudes that you look at it and they got first place and they have like 12 kills that game, and you're like, how the fuck did you do that? That dude probably has a $200 joystick that emulates a real flight stick for some aircraft in real life, and that joystick makes a huge difference, especially if you're a PS4 player like I am, because like this right analog stick combination of throttle and rudder all on the right analog stick does not work very well. It causes problems, and that part can be pretty frustrating. Mr. Joystick doesn't have that problem. He's got it. He paid $200 to make sure that doesn't happen to him. So just don't get frustrated if watching these dudes getting insane kill streaks, because that joystick makes a big difference. Alright, thanks for watching.